Welcome back to Xbox Corner. My name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at the Anacrusis, the latest titled giant game preview, and we'll be giving our opinions on where this one currently stands as it is in early access form. It comes though from a team made up of those that worked on Left 4 Dead, and that is absolutely evident in its design, so hit subscribe, join us here on Xbox Corner for reviews, deals, Game Pass breakdowns and graphical comparisons, and let's get started. So before we do kick things off then, being a game preview title, we will not be attaching a score today. This is very much an early build of the game. We want to reflect that today in our breakdown, so think here more the positives, the negatives, and anything that may need a little work. That also though leads perfectly into story. That's because there's very little here in that sense. It oozes style, there's no question about it. There's clearly a universe in place, but it can be summed up as explore this ship, take out aliens, figure out a way to escape. There's a small intro that's stylized like a 60s TV show, but it's nothing more than a backdrop to a few lines of dialogue attempting to somewhat set a scene before rolling over to the gameplay. So gameplay on what we have here is a 4-person co-op first-person shooter. It's very much designed like Left 4 Dead or the more recent Back 4 Blood. All those entries channeled zombies taking over the world though, this one sends you out to a galactic space station and asks you to take down an army of aliens. It does very little to change the actual gameplay, but that is definitely a refreshing setting. As per those games though, this one starts you in a safe room here. You can reload, pick a weapon from a relatively small selection, and heal for those moments later in the mission. The guns, they are simple enough but effective, and everyone should find something to their taste, from shotguns to pistols to a variety of machine guns. Later then in each mission you will find more safe rooms. Look at these as almost being checkpoints. With progress though as well, you can expect to find all sorts of sidearms or heavy weapons, so think turrets or laser beams to secondary like grenades. Some of those are traditional, some embracing the sci-fi world like a grenade that creates a shield that's particularly useful towards the end game. There's also of course then health packs to uncover, though for me I will say they were often few and far between. That also goes for weapons, ammos, just generally any sort of pickups. It's actually the game, or at least this is my understanding, reacting to my ability, what it's calling the game director. The controls are decent enough then. It comes with a few nice assists though, so you can adjust that difficulty almost, though I will say there's no like direct, easy, normal or hard mode. It's never a particularly easy game though as well, I will say that going in. It overwhelms you from the opening moments and rarely lets up. These assists though, think bullets that home in on your enemy, or a quick snap function to the nearest enemy when you aim down a scope. What I do find a little unusual, there's a few controls almost missing. You get a force shield, for example, to push back enemies, which is going to be needed when you're surrounded, but I would have liked just a basic melee attack, allow me to save my ammo when I can. Also, there's no sprint, and granted, the standard movement is pretty fast, but I would have still liked a little boost when possible. Where this one then tries to switch things up, it is in the in-game matter compilers. There's multiple in each stage. They can be missed, but they will give you a selection of perks that can be applied to your character. They are broken down into weapon, grenade and passive perks. Some of my personal favourites this far, a faster reload and then also health boosts. In its current form though, the game has 3 episodes, a 4th and 5th promised to come at a later date, alongside then what it calls the weekly challenge. The current challenge, it's going to be built around loot, but I'm looking forward to seeing what creative ideas they can come up with. In the future then as well, they are promising more seasons as well as weapon skins, character outfits, different profiles like their emotes. That's all going to be found on the loadout tab. My understanding is, though, as the game sits, we're about 12 months out from what would be considered full release, and they will also be providing full mod support. That's where this one could be a real winner. The community will be able to make their own content, and that will not only support PC players but console players as well. If you're wondering then about matchmaking, sadly I can't say I tested it. I couldn't find anyone online. I was in before the official launch date, but I was able to play alongside Luke, and it was as easy as an invite or a code. We went for the latter, which is 6 digits or letters. Now though, let's talk about the opportunities. I don't want to call them weaknesses just yet. Again, I am reiterating this is a work in progress. They are completely transparent about that. The idea of this preview, it's not only to allow you access, but they actively want community input, so here is mine. The weapon selection is decent, but they don't feel quite weighty enough for me. The gameplay is relatively basic, it's focusing on the all-out carnage and panic-inducing waves, but there's something where the guns just don't quite have the kick they need. The UI then is super clean as well, but the buffers, the ones I've received, they feel like they have minimal effect and they are hidden away on a pause menu. That is fine, but it's nice to have kind of a quick view of them if they are on screen somewhere, just so you can kind of discuss them with your teammates. When me and Luke wanted to chat about, the impact we felt they were having, we'd have to kind of pause the game just to remind ourselves of what they record, what they did, and this game actually doesn't really pause. You can still get attacked in the background. Finally, on this, it's the big one in its current build on the Xbox, or at least the Series X. It has frame rate issues, episode 1 for me being noticeably the worst. That's because episode 1, it definitely opens with some of the more expansive locations, and while the issue is throughout the game, this is by far the worst. The highlight, expect movement to stutter, and that then to impact your ability to aim. Because of this, I actually went for the quick snap aiming assist. It helped overcome some of the issues. That's really the main one right there for me. I would focus on that first, make that smooth, then polish everything else later. Finally, enemies in game, I really like the selection and I hope they expand upon them as we see more episodes introduced to the game. We see some of the most creepy creatures. We have speedrunning zombie-like enemies, ones that roll around and turn into turrets or bounce off of you, tanks, and then my personal favourites, one that has suckers and pulls you in and one that blinds you with light. That last one as well there, the light, it is very cool. It completely blinds the screen and you'll need to go like all Arnie in Predator, shooting every direction and just hoping for the best. My final note though, there's 4 characters, they all play the exact same, but in single player, you get no control over which characters you are. It auto-assigns them automatically. It kind of feels like a bit of a miss, not giving you that choice. The one thing I will say though, the AI controlled partners, really top quality stuff. They actually kill a whole lot of enemies and they will definitely look after you. So for gameplay this far then, currently it's definitely got some shortcomings, but for a game preview title, I will say there's also a lot of potential here. Its issues though, jumping in at this point, they will be apparent. So graphically first, I love the world. It's got that 60s vibe, that sci-fi setting, the short snippets to open each level. They're like an opening sequence of a Twilight Zone-esque world. They've nailed it. And while the locations, they are consistent and as they should be, I think it does enough to keep you out of just like one corridor after the next, with like hub locations, communal style lounges, and more kind of ship control areas. Yeah, think a whole lot of like flashy lights there. It just looks great. It's a style I've always enjoyed, and it's one we rarely see in video games. Enemies then, they're definitely repetitive in design, think the exact same models on repeat, but they are no question intimidating. My big issue is the animations, so sprinting towards you, they look the part, but the deaths, it's just, they don't seem right, and I think this is almost why the guns feel weak as well. They need to show the different impact points on your enemy, there should be a difference between what is a chest shot or a headshot. There's no satisfying gore in here either, but that was probably by design to open up to a wider audience. If it was up to me, heads would roll or at least at a minimum explode. My final issue, I love the environments, but they are quite sterile in their current build. Same with the guns, I would love to see a little, wear and tear, minor destructibility in the environment, maybe some alien goo on the guns, just something to make it feel like it starts off so peaceful before the world begins to end. So audio and not bad, the guns each have a unique tone to them, and the menu music, it's ominous but particularly nice. It kind of sets the scene as you would expect. In game, I wouldn't say there was much in the way of musical backing, but there were some highlights like a disco kicking in, which really delivered on the humour of the setting. It was moments like this where I was like, yes, I absolutely get what this game is going for. The dialogue then, it can be repetitive in its current state, and the acting feels suitably B-movie, but will need some expansion as we move into more episodes. Outside of that though, gun sounds, they're decent enough, and the alien noises, they are particularly aggressive as you would expect. So the final verdict, and again I would never call a game in preview bad, good, whatever tag you want to attach, it is a work in progress and that's how I will treat it. The positives currently, this setting is fantastic, the 60s dressing, it's just a winner, and it's about time it got some love in the gaming world. Also, the aliens are an intimidating enemy, and when the gunplay, it's, you know, top tier working, then it definitely feels right, it definitely feels like something you would want to jump into. Gunplay though, on that note, could still do with some tweaks. That is not all the time unfortunately, which I'm sure now will be a big part of community feedback going forward. The big issue they need to address immediately though, it's the frame rate. That's on the Series X, on the S as well, we did check there, but it's from the opening moments and then it is throughout. It kind of goes from decent and okay to a lot worse. We need stability. Never do you want to give a player a way to blame the game itself if they get overwhelmed and killed. Here I could see that being currently very easy. From there though, then just start to tidy up, start to add in more content, and then pull through with the idea of the mod scene, because that could be absolutely huge. I'd suggest though checking it out if the formula is your thing. It for sure is, you know, more simplistic than something like Back 4 Blood, but it also just makes it kind of fun alongside its 60s setting. The perks then finally, they go a little way to adding some extra depth and reason for replayability. It is on Game Pass though, the core episodes, that's going to last you maybe in the region of 3 to 4 hours, and it's worth a look. Just again, remember it is game preview, not a final release, so you need to know that going in. This is not expected currently to be without its faults. Will you be checking it out though, or are you going to be holding off until that full release? Maybe the genre's not even for you, let us know in the comments down below. With that then, hit subscribe, join us here on Xbox Corner for reviews, Game Pass breakdowns, deals and graphical comparisons near weekly, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.